Hi everyone, welcome back. This is part two of the Geronimo Stilton series that we had started in part one. If you remember, so far, Mr. Geronimo Stilton was looking for an assistant, and he found a 14-year-old little mouse named Pinky Pick. And so far, it's been quite the adventure between Mr. Stilton and Pinky. So let's continue on and see what happens next. Chapter 8. How embarrassing. You stink worse than a hunk of rotten cheese, Stilton. Fuzzy was shouting. How embarrassing. Fuzzy Fuzzborn, one of the most famous rats on Mouse Island, and he thought I was a first-class creep. What if he started spreading Pinky's story around? My reputation would be ruined. And it is all Pinky's fault. That's it, I decided. I can't have this meddling mouse as my assistant. Before I could say anything, Pinky pressed the speaker button on my phone. Fuzzy's voice rang out through the office. And another thing, Stilton, Fuzzy said, that little assistant of yours is a genius. Her interview was brilliant. She really understands me and my music. I'm thinking of letting her write my biography. All thoughts of firing Pinky left my brain. Fuzzy Fuzzborn's biography? That was an even bigger scoop than the interview. Pinky Pick grinned. She sat down and put her shoes on my desk. I motioned for her to move her paws. She didn't. Instead, she made a face at me. The Daily Rat. I started thinking about firing Pinky again. Biography or not, she was just too much. Fuzzy was still talking. You are lucky to have an assistant like Pinky Pick, Stilton, he said. I am sure she could teach you a thing or two. You better keep her happy, or you might lose her. Of course, Fuzzy, of course, I said. But inside, I was still fuming. Fuzzy finally hung up. Pinky jumped out of her seat. I think it's time for a raise, boss, she shouted. My furry face flushed red. Raise? I shrieked. But I just hired you. Pinky winked at me. Too bad. I guess I could always go work for the competition. I turned as pale as a piece of mozzarella. The Daily Rat was my biggest competition in New Mouse City. If Pinky worked there, they would get the Fuzzy Fuzzborn interview and biography. I gulped. Now don't be hasty, Pinky, I said. Aren't you happy here at the Rodents Gazette with your Uncle Jerry? Pinky smiled. Here's the deal, she said, slapping her paws on my desk. I want a mega huge bonus each year. I love to travel, so I need 3 months of paid vacation. And I want all my expenses paid, including my clothes. I need to keep up with the latest trends, she pointed to her baggy sweatshirt. Well, that's all very expensive, I said. Pinky sat down and folded her arms behind her head. I understand, boss. If you don't like the deal, I can always go somewhere else. I already have an idea for Fuzzborn's biography. Pinky's gaze moved to the top of my desk. A copy of the Daily Rat stared up at us. I would not let them scoop me with the Fuzzy Fuzzborn story. I could not let it happen. Whatever you want, Pinky, I said. Whatever you want. The assistant's assistant. So it was all settled. Pinky Pick was my new assistant. The Rodents Gazette was going to get the Fuzzy Fuzzborn interview and biography. I arrived at my office early the next morning, ready for a calm and peaceful day. But I had not even finished my cheese pastry when Pinky Pick burst through my door. I have news, boss, she squeaked. News about Fuzzy? I asked hopefully. No, there is more news, she said. Come on, ask me what it is. All right, Pinky, I said. What is it? Pinky moved to one side. Ta-da! She shouted. A female mouse stepped out from behind Pinky. She looked like she was about 14, too. Who are you? I asked. My name is Mary Melody, she said shyly. Shouldn't you be in school? I asked. Pinky laughed. It's Christmas vacation. There is no school. By the way, this is Mary, my new assistant. Assistant, I shouted. Who said you were allowed to have an assistant? Pinky did not answer. Instead, she unhooked the big diary from her backpack. She opened it up to reveal a built-in calculator. She said, punching in numbers. With Mary's help, I could write Fuzzy's biography faster. I could do it in 1 month instead of 2. A cheese-scented diary. Pinky had my attention. Of course it was ridiculous for an assistant to have an assistant, but if Fuzzy's biography could get done faster that way... All right, I said, but how much will your assistant cost me? Pinky whispered a number in my ear. Holy cheese, I cried in horror. I could buy a lifetime supply of cheddar with that kind of money. Then Pinky whispered something else in my ear. What? I asked. How much did the Daily Rat offer you? I had no choice. I had to hire Mary or lose Pinky and Fuzzy Fuzzborn to the Daily Rat. The morning had been much too exciting for me. I wanted to forget about Pinky Pick, just for a while. So later that day, I called a meeting of my staff at the publishing house. I asked my sales manager for a report. We need to make new products, Shift T Paws said. Something modern, something exciting, something for today's youth. From behind me, a small voice said, "No problem, I have lots of ideas." I cringed. Pinky Pick ran into the room, carrying a stack of papers. "How about a diary with cheese-scented pages? A series of biographies on rock singers? Or a backpack on wheels?" she asked. "And here's the best idea of all. We could publish a magazine for young mice. We can call it Fur Kids Only. And I think the right rodent for the job is me." How could you? My staff gobbled up Pinky's ideas like hungry rats at an all-you-can-eat cheese bar. I had to admit, her ideas were all pretty good. We started production on everything. The cheese-scented diary, the magazine, it all sold like crazy. I started to think that hiring Pinky Pick was not such a bad idea after all. Sure, she is loud and pushy and wears ridiculous clothes, I told myself, but she knows how to make money for this company. So I had a smile on my snout as I walked into my building a few days later. I opened my office door and stepped inside. For a second, I thought I had gone through the wrong door. The room looked like Pinky's office. Then I saw my desk, my papers, my cheese-shaped paperweight. "Cheese niblets," I shrieked. "Pinky, what have you done?" My lovely mouse-gray walls had been splattered with pink. Lines, squiggles, and doodles in bright colors stared back at me. Red, blue, yellow, green, purple, and pink. Shocking pink, of course. Pinky ran into the room, waving a spray can. "How do you like it, boss?" she asked. "I did it for free, because I like you." "If you really liked me, you would have left my office alone," I wailed. Just then, Mary flung open the door. She rushed into the room. The door slammed into my snout. I fell against my coat stand. The stand fell on my head. I stumbled. One paw landed in the umbrella stand, the other paw landed on top of the computer plug. A shock of electricity raced through me. "Yow!" I shrieked, my fur stood on end. I broke away from the plug and slammed into Pinky. Her spray can went off and orange paint sprayed my snout. "Help!" I screamed. Mousella and the rest of the staff came running. They all stared at me. Finally, my art director, Tylerat True Mouse, spoke up. "Mr. Stilton, why are you dressed up like a punk rocker?" he asked. "Happy birthday, Stilton!" It took me all day to wash the orange paint out of my fur. I went home that night in a bad mood. Not only was my office ruined, but it was my birthday, and nobody remembered. Now, I don't like to make a big deal of my birthday. A nice, quiet celebration is just fine. But I had not even received a single phone call, not even from my Aunt Sweetfur. Aunt Sweetfur always sends me a birthday card. Of course, she still treats me like I am 5 years old. Last year's card had a picture of a tiny mouse holding a balloon. It said, "To my sweet little cheeselet." It's the thought that counts. I was in no hurry to get back to my empty mouse hole, so I walked home. First, I passed the newsstand. Copies of Pinky's new magazine were stacked on every shelf. Then I passed the bookstore. Pinky's cheese-scented diary filled the window display. Normally, the store stacked my best-selling books in their window, but it seemed they had forgotten about me, just like everyone else. I sighed. A few minutes later, I slumped up the stairs of my building. I unlocked my door and pushed it open. Suddenly, lights came on. "Happy birthday!" "Cheesecake!" I squeaked. I jumped back. I hate surprises. About 100 mice filled my house. They all began to sing. "May you have a happy day. Raise your snout and shout, hooray! Now it's time to celebrate because your assistant is really great." "Your assistant is really great? What kind of birthday song is that?" Suddenly, I understood. The crowd parted. Pinky Pick stood in the center of the room. She was with Thea, my cousin Trap, and my nephew Benjamin. "Aha!" I cried. Pinky was behind this party, and I knew that could not be good. Thea grabbed me. "Hey, Germeister," she said. "This party was a great idea, and it's all thanks to Pinky." Thea gave Pinky a hug. Then it hit me. Thea and Pinky are a lot alike. They are both loud, and both like to stir up trouble. I moaned. Somehow I knew my life would never be calm and peaceful again. I grabbed the mozzarella stick from the snack table and began to munch on it to calm my nerves. Suddenly, I felt a slap on my back. I nearly choked on my mozzarella. I turned around. It was my cousin Trap, of course. "It's about time you had a party, Jerry Berry," he said. "That assistant of yours is good for you. I love your new office. That old gray mouse hole of yours was so depressing." "But I liked my gray mouse hole," I protested. "And you were always such a penny pincher," Trap went on. "I'm glad to see you're living it up a bit. Caviar, truffles, champagne, imported cheese." I followed Trap's gaze across the room. Someone had set up a huge table piled with expensive food. I had a bad feeling. I started to look around. Benjamin, my dear little nephew, pulled my sleeve. Uncle Geronimo, isn't Pinky pretty? He squeaked, will you please introduce me? But I ignored him. I was too busy noticing other, bigger changes in my house. Someone had set up a huge arrangement of expensive flowers. A shocking pink silk carpet lined my hallway, and each guest was carrying a little gift, a solid platinum cheese holder with a diamond on the lid. I had that feeling again. This could not be good. Snap flash fur. I was right. Things only got worse. To start with, the sound of loud music suddenly filled my living room. I looked in the corner and saw that the famous rock band Rat Attack was pounding away on their guitars. I also saw a mouse with long, dark fur carrying a camera. He was talking to guests and taking pictures. I would know that snout anywhere. It was Snap Flash Fur, the famous photographer. He only took pictures of the biggest celebrities. What is he doing here? I asked. Flash, flash, flash. Isn't it wonderful? Thea said, beaming. She loves to rub elbows with important mice. We hired only the best for your birthday. Just wait until you see the pictures. Snap walked up to me. My dear Mr. Stilton, look at these wonderful photos I took of you. You didn't even notice I was doing it. I get the best pictures that way. I looked at the photos. One showed just my paw. The other was my body without a head. My nephew Benjamin takes better photos than that. But Thea loved them. Brilliant, she said, clapping her paws together. Snap, you are a genius. Nobody takes photos like you do. Who would want to? I muttered, but Snap's photos were the least of my worries. I had to ask Thea a question, and I was not sure I wanted the answer. Who is paying for all of this? I asked nervously. And we are going to stop here for part 2. I didn't think this story was going to take so many parts, but looks like we're going to be sticking around for part 3. So let's see what happens next. Have a great day.